we've had this horrific shooting in Colorado. It's leading all the news. And already the president has said, no, we're not going to bring back the assault weapons ban. In fact, there's, you can find this in several blog posts. It's interesting, some of the conservative sites as well, pointing out that President Obama has expanded gun owner rights more than any president arguably since Reagan. For example, you can have guns on public property and state parks and things like that. So, but I'm of the opinion it's time for us to be really having a conversation about this. So, Noel Flasterstein is back with us. He's an attorney and gun rights expert, Second Amendment advocate. His website is gunrightsforyou.com. Noel, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
I think that we can both agree that anything that is explicated, anything is laid out in the first 10 amendments of the Constitution was pretty important to the founders. The First Amendment guarantees our right of free speech. The Second Amendment, up until 3 years ago, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, guaranteed the right of a militia to be well armed. And 3 years ago, the Supreme Court said that extends to individuals as well. Which do you think is more important, or do you think that they're equally important, the right to free speech or the right to bear arms?
Well, they're both equally important, and unfortunately, there are people that have opinions and make comments that I don't particularly care for, and some of them are quite, some of them are just probably better not said. And for example, the Westboro Baptist people, well, I think they should be shut down, but unfortunately, we do have a constitution that fortunately recognizes the rights of all individuals, and so we got to put up with those nut jobs that want to have their speech, so people that do have worthwhile speech won't be affected. So obviously, the Second Amendment is a very important amendment to us as a society, to us as a people, and as you know, it was obviously very important to the Founding Fathers. And I think if we look at the Declaration of Independence as drafted by Thomas Jefferson, he, acknowledges that the consent of the governments exist by virtue of the consent of the governed. That's us, the people.
Well, Noel, if the First and Second Amendments, if the right to free speech and the right to bear arms, in your mind, are equally important, we regulate the right to free speech in the United States. There are a lot of things you can't do or say. You can't make bomb jokes in airports. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't go on radio or television and say obscenities. There are a lot of things that you cannot say in the United States, and yet we don't say that means that there's no such thing as free speech. Why not say, with regard to guns, when in the early days of, in fact, Ron Reagan made this argument over the weekend, I thought it was brilliant. In the early days of cars, there were no rules to the road. It had always been horses, and so nobody had come up with stop signs, nobody had come up with stop lights, nobody had come up with anything. Which side of the road do you drive on? Nothing. And people kept getting killed in these cars early on, and so by the 1900s and the 19-teens, we were all across the nation. We were coming up with rules saying, okay, you want to own a car? People can get killed by these things. You got to prove competency. You got to have your name on a record. You got to have a license to drive. Why not do the same for guns?
Yeah, driving a car and operating an automobile is not a fundamental right that our founding fathers and mothers saw.
Actually, it is. Actually, it is. The right to free motion, the right to move freely within the United States is clear.
That has nothing to do with cars. You can move freely. Now, I guess we could make a legal argument that obviously this was envisioning cars and such forth, but there's nothing in the Constitution or the amendments specifically addressing cars. There are things that specifically address the right of us, the people, to vote. I mean, I've always said we have three branches of government.
Actually not. There is no right to vote in the Constitution. Just read Bush v. Gore. In the Bush v. Gore ruling, Justice Rehnquist came right out and said there is no explicated right to vote in the U.S. Constitution. Therefore,
there is a right to own and possess and hold arms. There is a right for the people to protect themselves. And we have three branches of government: the executive, referring to the presidency; the legislative, referring to the Congress that makes the laws; and of course, the judiciary that interprets them. And what gives us what gives us our form of government any substance is us, the people. The fourth branch of government, has our founding fathers intended, and that's us, the people. And what gives us any rights. Our checks and balances on the other branches is our right to vote, which you've just informed me we don't have a constitutional right with. I'm not going to dispute
Tragically,
that.
yes.
But what gives that checks and balance that we do have any meaning, any substance, is our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Because if the people themselves cannot have the ability to protect themselves as the Founding Fathers envisioned, this government could run amok. And I thank the Lord that we do have an NRA.
But isn't the right to speak out every bit as important as the right to carry a gun in your mind, particularly if you're concerned about the government? I mean, if you're going to if you're going to foment a revolution against an oppressive government, you're going to have to talk about it first. And even there, call up the FBI and tell them that you're planning on doing something nasty to an elected official. You will find your butt in jail so fast. We have limits on the right to free speech, and they're not irrational limits. They're reasonable limits. Why not have reasonable limits on the right to bear arms?
I would agree with you to the extent that, yes, I don't want my neighbor to have plutonium-grade uranium or some sort of nuclear device. But in terms of his ability to have an assault rifle, which I believe professionally and personally, the Founding Fathers intended anything.
They did not exist at the time of the Constitution being written.
Individuals should be able to have.
There was the Gatling gun hadn't even been invented at the time the Revolution was started. It was flint loaders. Or flintlocks.
What does that have to do with the ability of the people to protect themselves from the government? There has to be a match per match for the arms that the government can have that the individuals can have.
Nowhere, Neil. Nowhere in the constitutional debates. I defy you to find it. Madison kept meticulous records about the constitutional debates. Nowhere in the Federalist Papers. I've read these things. Nowhere will you find any of the founders of this country asserting directly that the right to bear arms was the right to overthrow the government of the United States or to stand up to it. That's not why the right to bear arms was there. It was to protect our country, not to protect against our country.
I got the Declaration of Independence, and it clearly says...
We had no government at the time of the Declaration of Independence. It was Great Britain.
Well, then we should just ignore the Declaration of Independence. It means nothing.
We can ignore it right now because we're not occupied by a foreign government.
That's right. And if the government were to take away the individual's right to keep and bear arms, then we could have a Hitler's Germany. We could have dictatorship.
I don't think so. Hitler's Germany was very well armed. Hitler was fetishized guns. There were guns all over Germany.
And the first thing he did when he came to power is he disarmed the Jews.
It's a nice myth, but it's not true, Noel.
Then he disarmed all the other undesirables in his political scheme.
No, he didn't.
Of course he did. They went right to the gun registration law. Why do you think
the national gun registration law in Germany, Noel, was in 1927, long before Hitler came along, and in 1935, during the Hitler regime, Hitler backed off on the national gun registration and made it possible for any German to own a gun except Jews.
The Weimar Republic instituted the gun registration.
Right. This was before Hitler.
When Hitler came to power, he said, okay, I need to disarm my enemies and the undesirables.
No, Hitler made it easier to buy guns in 1935. Look it up.
I did look it up, and I respectfully disagree with you on this.
Okay. Well, Neil, we'll have to leave it at that. People can check it out for themselves. Gunrightsforyou.com. Thanks, Neil.